Hello, my name is Drew, and I'm the Aspiring Master, and welcome to the Aspiring Master Presents. This is a show where we talk about the meanings, misunderstandings, and insights about the important words we use and misuse on a daily basis. Really understanding what we're truly meaning when we talk allows us to convey and explain ourselves better to others. This not only allows us clearer communication so we can get what we need quicker and with less fuss, but also helps us understand ourselves in more depth than we thought possible. On this episode, we'd like to welcome back our friend Dan Martin for Friendship Part 2. I had a guy that used to come out to karaoke all the time when I was hosting karaoke. And he and I were, he was a karaoke patron. And smart guy, really smart guy. And we'd go out and we'd chat and I'd connect with him and he connected with me. And we'd go out and chat and do things. And we wouldn't do things. We'd just go outside and smoke, because I smoked at the time. We'd smoke and we'd chat about pretty deep stuff. And, he'd come in and it's like, hey, how you doing? We'd do our thing. And this one night we were out just going, we went for coffee and had a smoke and stuff. And we were talking and he says, yeah. And he started talking about friendship. And I said, yeah, well, I said, I wouldn't consider you a friend. I would consider you an acquaintance. And he was really, really hurt by that. He told me years later. And he said, yeah, I was really, really hurt by that until I finally, he said, after about a year or so, I understood what you meant, because we started to become friends, right? And then we became friends. Now he's a friend. Now he's in that circle. But he said, I was really, really hurt by the fact that you said that, because in his mind, we were friends, right? He'd already put that trust and stuff in me. And it was just me telling him I hadn't yet. And I told him even at the time, I said, I don't really know you. Right? I can't formulate that kind of friendship without really knowing you. I know that we talk about some cool things. We connect on these levels, but I don't know you. Right? And he didn't understand that. Years later, like he said, it was about a year and a half, he said. And then I finally kind of understood that as we were forming the friendship and how much deeper it was than it was when at that point. And I think that he exposed me to that whole idea of the fact that everybody's got this otherly definition of what it is this friendship should be giving to me, and what it is a friendship means to them, right?
Right.
Awkward silence.
No, I'm thinking about the definition of friendship again, because he obviously, or maybe hadn't given a lot of thought to, like, you're a very detailed guy, so you think these things through, and you understand that there is, friendship is on a scale. And you have a point where you don't call it friendship until it reaches a certain point. He meets someone and he's like, his definition of friendship is, well, here's my new friend. We've had a couple cigarettes together, and so we're friends. So your description of things sounds very much like what we're talking about. It's a misunderstanding in terms of definition and what friendship means and that kind of thing. And you obviously given much more thought to it than he did. And I think this is the problem with the world today, right?
Yeah.
Some people give a lot of thought, do a lot of research, do a lot of in-depth analysis of certain things. And some people are just going through life and enjoying things, and both are fine. But you have two perfectly fine people who have a disagreement about something, but they're both pretty much on the same page. They just call things differently, right?
Well, I had an experience a long time ago, and actually this is what started the show, really. I was, how old was I? I had to have been 17, 18, so I was about 19 or 20. And I had a buddy of mine who was, by the way, the buddy from the other story of packing my mom's vehicle. Anyway, and he was the definition of a Taurus. He was the most stubborn person that I'd
Mhm.
ever met when it came to, he was ridiculous in defending himself when he thought he was being attacked. Um, and I mean, I know his background. Alcoholic parents, really, really, really bad environment that he grew up in. And he also had, he had seizures every once in a while.
Okay.
So he had some issues with his brain, but nobody knew that sort of at the time. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. One night we were talking about something, and I couldn't tell you what it was. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is. But me and another buddy, a friend of his, were down in my basement suite, and we were talking, and it was about 10 o'clock at night. And he got defensive about something, a point that I was making, like super defensive. Nope, nope, that's not the way it is. Nope, no, nope. Right.
Mhm.
So what happened was it was literally an 8 hour conversation trying to get him to understand what I was saying. And I am not joking. It was 8 hours from 10 to 10:30 to 6 in the morning.
Wow.
Me and this
That's
other,
commitment.
I, I, like we were, I was trying to figure out what the heck I said that got him so defensive,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I'm like down underneath, and this kid had more stamina in defending himself than I've ever seen anybody anywhere. It was insane. And when people say, "Oh, it couldn't have been it was 8 hours," it was literally eight
Wow.
hours. Um, and and I just go, oh, could not figure out. And even his buddy who had misinterpreted it and figured it out, right? And then started with me trying to, now he's defending himself on two levels. It was just insane to watch.
Mhm.
6 in the morning, I finally figured out. I said, wait a minute, hold on. After 8 hours of trying to explain this to him, because there was no way I was just as tenacious, by the way. I was not letting this go because
Mhm.
I had to figure out what the heck it was.
Sure.
Um, so I, at 6 in the morning, I said to him, I said, look, what's the issue? What did I say? Finally, I asked him,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
After trying to explain it 1,500 different ways.
Yeah.
I said, what was the issue? He said, well, you said, and he said this word, and this is what it means to me. And I'm like, jaws on the floor, right? Like I'm just going, that one word had him defending himself for 8 hours. Like when he got up and we had finally resolved it, like he was done, he said, oh, that's what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
After I had finally asked him what his issue was. Um, it was, he had got up and he was shaking. He was literally shaking like he had to go to bed, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he was shaking. And but that spawned what we're doing right now, is because if somebody can spend 8 hours defending himself over a misconception, over one misinterpreted word, one, we have a problem. We have a
Right.
problem as a people because we have all of these definitions of all of these words, and we're constantly miscommunicating.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah. Well, that word meant something to him, and it
Oh yeah.
started a dialogue or a story in his head that was
Hmm.
on loop. And I get it. I understand it. I have the same issue with certain things, and I try not to put too much energy into stuff like that anymore because um, I just and I think this will probably be my New Year's resolution. I don't normally do them, but it's just to accept what is,
Hmm.
and that my perspective is really just my perspective. It's a singular thing, and it although some people share what I believe in or what I think about, there are as many opinions about things as there are people. And if you can't get that through your head, and I'm speaking myself, if I can't
Right.
get that through my head, then I just suffer. I suffer because people don't behave or react in the way that I expect them to react. And
Yeah.
ultimately that's what friendship is
Yeah.
just being okay with the person or the person or people that you interact with or call friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when I was telling you that the thing that I hear about in relationship, whether it's a close personal relationship or friendships, is I didn't sign up for this. And when my wife and I got together, and because you have to be friends first, personally, I think that you have to be on the intimate level of friendship in order to have a wife and husband relationship,
Mhm.
whatever that looks like for you,
Mhm.
life partner relationship, um, work. You have to have that feeling that you are friends. And when we're talking about friendship, I'm talking about that love and acceptance thing again, because I think that is the ultimate important thing and component to any friendship.
Mhm.
Now we layer that on with the transactional stuff, but I tell people, I said, yes, you did sign up for this, and I even remember talking to the friend that just came back in my life, knowing that he and his wife were having issues. I remember having a conversation with her about that exact thing.
Mhm.
She basically said, well, like, I mean, I didn't sign up for, right, all of the things that were going on, and I'm like, but yes, you did.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
like I said, but I didn't say that. I just said, listen, when I have a friendship or when I have any kind of relationship, I understand that those people that I'm never going to fully know them, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
there's no such thing unless we can get into each other's brains, experience each other's thoughts. It's just not going to happen. Um, so they're going to be a mystery to me to a great deal. And there's always going to be something unexpected. I said, but when I get into a relationship with a person, I'm getting into a relationship. So let's take a look at you and I. When I say that I'm getting into a friendship, I have to accept all of the things about you, which means your connection to your wife, your connection to your kids, the connection to your dogs, the connection to your computers, the connection to that vase that you have on the back wall.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to accept all of those things about you and understand that they are going to affect our interaction
Mhm. Mhm.
every single time we interact,
Right.
whether we like it or not, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you weren't busy editing on a computer yesterday,
Mhm.
you might have said, more likely have said, yeah, let's do a distanced coffee. I've got some time.
Yeah.
Or, no, I want to spend some time with my wife because I've been on
Mhm.
the computer all day. Or,
Yeah.
right, all of those things. So if I had not accepted you for you and said, well, why aren't you catering to me?
Mhm. Mhm.
If you were my friend, you would be catering to me more.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and people don't think of it in that respect, but I accept that your life is complex and that you have to interpret it the way you interpret it. So I have to accept all of that when I say you are welcome into my friendship circle. Um,
Mhm.
and that's why my filters are so huge.
Mhm.
It's like I don't want anybody in my circle that doesn't reciprocally say the same thing to me. That they say, I accept that you have your stuff. If I have any expectations of you, I will let you know,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Say, Drew, you haven't called me in a month and I have an expectation that you should call me once a month.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want me to call you? Right. Um, because I can think of a number of things at the moment.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's like in that respect, in any kind of relationship, whether it's a husband and wife, a friendship, because I think that they're more closely linked than you think. I think that in our minds, when we talk about a trusted friend, right? We've got these levels, right? We've got, oh, he's a buddy, he's a we call them all of these things, and there's sort of different levels of friendship. I just differentiate. I don't call a friendship until it hits this level,
Mhm. Right.
right? And the other levels are all acquaintanceship or somebody I know, or acquaintanceship sort of covers most of the other levels for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's and so people would say that I'm an extremist, and I said no. It's just to get in that category in my life, you have to be able to accept me for me, right? If you don't, I actually had a friend that was kind of a hungry ghost because he was starving for a friend.
Mhm.
Right. And I had to talk to him. I said, listen, I really like you. We connect on all these levels. I love this. Right. But you have to know that I'm not that person. right?
Yeah.
If you've got this fictional idea of who I should be in your head, you should let that go. And if you can't, you know,
Yeah.
then you're just going to be disappointed all the time in this.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he finally just like, yeah, this is him. You know, he was okay because he got whatever it is he got out of it, and it was enough,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, you have a certain expectation that people see the world similarly to you, and you do have a
Hmm.
quite um, uh, I say a tolerant view of friends, because I know the shit you put up with me, right? So, right.
See, but then
But
you've got this fictional idea. Now let's analyze that because you tend to come down on yourself really really hard, and I'm gonna talk about you specifically because I know that you have this ideal in your mind of what you should be living up to. And I think here is our problem as people. We have these incredible ideals on ourselves that we place on everybody else. And we can't even live up to them,
yeah,
right? Like, I mean, I don't understand how we can place all of these ideals on other people when we can't even live up to our own. And it's not that it's bad or good that we don't live up to them. It's the understanding that these are fake ideals. We are not accepting ourselves as ourselves. We're still pretending we should be somebody else. And that affects our friendships big time. And when you say that, I know that I'm a bad friend. It's like, you are not a bad friend. You are a perfect friend, right? On my perspective, when I'm looking at you, you are you. And so you are the perfect friend for me because you're you, not because you're some fictional character that you have in your mind. Right? So there's no tolerance. When you talk about tolerance, there's to me the difference between patience and tolerance is this. Tolerance is something that I would rather not be happening that I'm just going to allow to happen because it's there and I have to.
yeah,
Patience is not having to have it happen anyway.
yeah,
And that's it.
yeah,
Okay? There's no difference between those two. Yes, you tolerate things because they irritate you, and if they're irritating you, that means you do not accept them. They are unacceptable. You think they should be different. And the problem that you're having in a tolerance level, because tolerance will always wear away. Always. There is never a question. You may have a lot of strength in your tolerance, but eventually it'll eat you. Um, Patience doesn't, because there's no expectation around patience. There's no um, idea of what should be. There's no fictional idea of the situation in your head. You're, as you say, accepting what it is. So patience is something completely different than tolerance. Tolerance happens when you have an expectation of me and I'm not fulfilling it. So you
mhm,
tolerate me because you get some other things over here, whether that's just happy time or play racquetball with me or whatever it is. You get all these things over here, but you're only tolerant because you're expecting this stuff over here and you're not getting it. And eventually that tolerance wears thin until that veil drops and you go, this isn't worth it for me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but patience doesn't do that, right? Like, I'm not sitting on the other side of us going, I only tolerate your friendship, right? It's like
yeah,
that.
yeah. I look at my life and I wonder, you often reflect on what you do and the time you spend doing it. And I've spent a lot of time, working just working in my
Hmm.
life, and it's um, you wonder if you're making the right decisions. Like, should I be, that whole thing about the confessions, deathbed confessions, and one of them is, um, nobody wishes they worked more. Like, the wishes is, I wish I had worked less, right? And
Right.
I know how much I work right now, and I'm getting to the age where you start to think about these things, right? I mean, we all have limited time, and um, so anyway, I think about these things, and I probably a little too much. I have these stories running through my head all the time, these narratives that I really need to let go of. But having said that, um, I do hope that I can just, be with people more, spend more time with people and enjoy, people that I enjoy being with. I enjoy their company, right? Um,
Right.
and that's really for friends. That's what you want. That's what you want from friendship, is being able to enjoy your time with someone you don't see all the time, right? To give you some variety. I mean, we are social creatures, and I think we all need that to a degree. And even people who
Mhm.
are extreme introverts still need to interact with people. They have to,
Well,
right?
when you say that, what comes up for me, and there's been a time or two in our friendship where I've gone, huh, where I'm feeling depressed, right? And this has nothing to do with anybody, but it has to do with what goes on with me. I know that I'll feel suicidally depressed like once a year these days. It used to be a lot more. But I'll get into this funk of where I feel that I'm completely unacceptable, completely not like everybody I think is avoiding me because, and it has to do with my own paranoia. Even though while those thoughts are going through my head, I go, oh, like maybe I did something to offend everybody, like Dan doesn't call me, and so those things do come up with me for me, like maybe like a once a year, maybe. But again, I understand that it's based on a depression of not feeling worthy enough for the world that was instilled in
Yeah.
me as I was growing up, and I know that it's not real, right? It's real enough that there's a part of me that still thinks that it's probably going to be like that for the rest of my life. I don't know. It's grown from it's actually not grown. It's shrunk from being a suicidal depression that I'd have once every 3 or 4 months to once a year or every 2 years. Um, and when it does happen, I look at it and I just go, I'm in one of these states, honey, leave me alone. I need to play video games and just sort of
Yeah.
get through
Yeah.
it. Um, but in those states, I feel those, perhaps nobody likes me because nobody calls me, all of those things. When I'm rational, it's not an issue. It's when I'm feeling that, when I feel needy, it becomes an issue. And I think that because of our definitions of friendship, because of our definition of relationship and what it should be, we have a lot of those yearnings. And, I know that extroverts need physical contact. They really actually do. They need the physical contact. They need to go out and be a part of something to feel okay. Um, I've done so much personal growth work since I was, in my teens that I don't need those people or other things to feel okay. I still love them. I mean, I know that when I go out for a coffee with my buddy Alan and we sit and talk, I'm smiling the whole time, right? I enjoy it. It is such a cool feeling to hang out with somebody that accepts you for who you are. There's nothing that I can say pleases me more than to sit down and, like, I mean, last time we were out at that park and we were walking and talking, I was smiling the whole
Yeah.
time. It was just fantastic, and I love it. But on that same level, when we're done, I'm not sitting there going, I need more of those things in my life because I'm unfulfilled. No, that's, like I said, just another layer of icing for me. I've already got the cake, right? And I'm eating it, and then just more icing comes, and it's a state of gratitude that I know that not a ton of people have. To be aware of who you are and why you do things, you know, defining a word. What does friendship mean to you? What are the stipulations of your friends? What should be happening in order for them to fit into your friendship? What is it that like, think about these things. And when you start to think about and define those things, all of a sudden you might actually take a look at and say, wait a minute, I'm not really a nice person here because I don't want somebody putting these things on me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't, I don't want to have my friends doing this to me, right? Um, so that self-awareness, that questioning that we have around this, and it is super important with relationships, and friendship being one of our basest. Um, Friendship, like I said, is just one tier down for me from having a life partnership.
Mhm.
Because a life partnership is we go from feeling that we're totally gotten and understood. Now here, I want to just mention this real quick because falling in love, I just want to let everybody know, falling in love, it's a chemical thing. It has nothing to do with anything else. When you are in love with somebody, you are in this chemical high that you cannot get out of. It is an awesome, incredible thing to be in. But I tell you, they do not accept you wholeheartedly for who you are. They're just too high to notice. Um, the people get into marriage from that state because that's what it feels like. It feels like they just get us. It feels like we are a simpatico. We're all on the same way. Oh, he likes for me, Talia. Who still rubs my feet. Don't get me wrong. She's going to tell, you're throwing me under the bus again here. It's like, no, I'm not. But when we first started dating and we were hip deep in the chemical of being in love, she would rub my feet all the time and rub my hands all the time. It's like once that wears off, right? Those rubbing feet all the time, she still does, right? She still messes with my feet, but not the way she used to. It's just not the same. So that was totally for her when she edits this. She's like, ah. but it's she did a bunch of things and accepted a bunch of things about me. It's sort of like she would never have complained me leaving my stuff around when she was in the in love phase. We're way too high to notice all that stuff. It's after we get there that we really start to get to know each other and really start to figure out whether we actually are compatible. We can live with each other without any huge judgments around us and all of that stuff. And the same thing happens with friendship to a degree. We don't fall in love in that state where we're chemically, but a lot of the times we have that instant connection. You know that, right? Yeah. When we feel that somebody just gets us. But what happens is that they get us on like one thing. But our brain goes everything.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's one thing.
Yeah.
Everything.
Endorphins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that whole. Yeah, we got to stop doing that, and we got to really start looking at really what's going on, not what we wish was.
Yeah,
I wish
that's
this
true.
was,
Very true.
I wish this was better. Oh yeah, friends with benefits. We have to talk about friends with benefits.
And are they really friends,
mean,
or is it just all about
exactly.
the benefits?
It's all about the benefits, yeah. Well, I mean, when we define any kind of friendship, we define it based on what it is that we want, right? And what it is that we need. I mean, yeah, we all need social interaction, but I think that we just need to be, like you said before, we just need to be got. We need to be acceptable and accepted. And I think that the closest friends and what people call, like, I mean, when we're talking about love, people say true love, right? You know, what is it? Unconditional love. That's the big one. And it's like unconditional love, which means that people accept you for who you are without having a whole bunch of demands on you, really. And that's all we're talking about here when we're talking about friendship. We feel more accepted and acceptable when we're in a friendship with somebody that kind of connects with us on a bunch of levels that other people don't. That they're more real with us. We can be real with our best friend. You know what I'm saying? It's like we can talk about anything, and they're okay. They're commiserate. They really get, you going through that stuff. They really hear you. It just comes down to being acceptable. And the people that are basing their relationships or their friendships on transactional, and I have to say that I have a prejudice here, because I feel that a lot more the extroverts are a lot more like that. They're a lot more transactional than they are intimate, and I find introverts a lot more intimate rather than transactional. Now, that's not to be said. I do have a couple of friends that are extroverts that we just don't connect on that level, but we love the conversation. They love to get deeper,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because a lot of the times they don't get deeper. Um, so yeah, it's that a little bit more around the intimacy level. I think is the deeper you go into friendship, the more intimate you can be with that person, without fear of reprisal,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But to really connect with the term friends with benefits,
Right.
it's perhaps a relationship that didn't really connect on a friendship
Live
level.
together level. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
more of a physical connection with
yeah.
someone. And I don't I don't I'm not sure how long that kind of friendship can last, because ultimately, if someone finds a partner that they love, and I don't know how long a friend with benefits can be maintained, because it seems like a ridiculous notion that you can continue to have sex with someone when you found a partner. I'm not even sure there is such thing as friends with benefits.
Well, I think that it all depends on how you define it. What we're using it for. Again, like here we talk about what's commonly used and how it's commonly used, and what can it really mean. I think that I'm in a relationship of friends with benefits myself, and because my wife and I are very good friends. We talk to each other about everything. We accept the other person. We've got our annoyances, obviously.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody does. We have our expectations that may not get met, but it's we are very much good friends, and we are very much into benefits, right? The benefits is the close physical intimacy, the sex that comes with it. So I think that yes, there is actually true friends with benefits, but I don't think that it's the way that we've been using it. The way we've been using it is we're friends with benefits, which means that we're really good in bed together, but not really good living together.
right,
Um,
right.
that's the way that I found that it's used.
Yeah, that's sort of
Um,
the typical definition of what that is. And I don't and I get what you're saying. Totally, that is probably closer to the definition of friends with benefits is having a life partner, right?
right,
But traditionally, I think friends with benefits has meant that you could maintain some kind of a relationship with someone on a casual basis that is only about one thing, one aspect. Um, and I think once you've crossed that line, I'm not even sure it's a friendship anymore, because when we talk about friendship in the way that we've described throughout this whole
right,
time we've been talking, uh, that really, we've never once said that that's part of the the ingredient of a good friendship, right?
right,
um anyway, it's neither here nor there, but I thought it was interesting, the terms that we use in society
right.
um don't often fit the
The result.
yeah, or what it is,
Yeah,
it sounds
yeah.
like a it, it sounds like a
It sounds better than it
it's
is. It's what we would, like, and we have to bleep this out, of course, but it's
fuck
buddies.
buddy, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, I mean, that's what we're describing friends with benefits. We're describing buddies. Now, um, when I
that's all
say
I
that,
wanted to, I
you know,
just want to hear you say
it's
fuck buddy, that's
buddies,
sorry.
of course, at least five times. When we're talking about friends with benefits, I think that you're exactly right. We're describing something and making it sound better. Really, we're really more along the lines of after sex, because I mean, if it's really friends with benefits, it's a life partner. We're talking about that's friends with benefits.
Friends with
Mhm.
benefits always comes with body language. When you say that I have I have a friend with benefits, it's always, a little wink and
Yeah, the wink
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
smile,
It
and
always
yeah,
comes
a
with,
nudge.
just so you know
Yeah.
exactly what we're talking about.
Well, and far be it from me to say always, because there's always an exception. There might be something out there where people that say we can't live together because we live separate lives, but this works for us. And I think that my mom's relationship with my stepdad was kind of like that. They had a relationship for 20 years where he worked, right? He was a workaholic. She was a workaholic, but she wanted her own life. She was an interior designer. She did her own thing. And my stepdad would come every once in a while and they would sleep together and have fun. And then he would go away,
Mhm.
right? Now, he was polygamous, by the way. So he had lots of those. Um, but it suited my mom perfectly because she didn't want to have like a full-time relationship that she had to, like do all of those things. And so on the level of friends with benefits, I think that was probably what she had in her mind, right? I have a relationship with somebody that I can depend on to fulfill these things for me, but isn't, in my face all the time,
Right, right.
right? Because that's what she was after. So when we're talking about that, we're talking about a generalization that we've experienced. Now, other people may have experienced friends with benefits that say we don't want to live together because we have such different lives, but we come together and we work great by ourselves, and we can spend this amount of time, whether it's a week, a year, or a month, or or every weekend or whatever,
Mhm.
that works for us. And so we can't box relationship into that's only what it is. It's in our experience, I think that mostly, yeah, I think friends with benefits is that. But I think that there are some people out there that have made something similar to that work. I actually just ran into some friends of mine, and during the pandemic, because one of them used to travel all the
Mhm.
time, and she was a trainer, and she traveled everywhere and did all, and then came back, and they would spend a bunch of time together, and then she would go away, right?
Mhm.
Well, the pandemic sort of killed her job, so she's at home all the time now, and she like I mean now being confronted with him constantly doing his stuff because he's used to her being gone. He's just like him,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
He's not trying. Um, it just drove her nuts.
Mhm. Mhm.
So now he lives in a trailer beside the house, right? Um, and she lives. They still love each other. They still have a great relationship. They still go out and they do things together. They still are a partnership.
Mhm. Mhm.
But they've found that if they spend too much time together,
Mhm.
it drives them both nuts. But they don't want to leave each other. They love each other very deeply. And so this relationship has shifted from the kind of relationship that we're talking about to he's out in the trailer, she's in the house.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And like he's free to come into the house all the time and stuff like that, but he's also free to go, yeah, this is enough for me. See ya. Right? Yeah, this is
I
enough
didn't
for me
sign up
too.
for
Go to your
this.
go to your go to your trailer, right? Um, but that works for them,
Yeah.
and that's still a friends with benefits thing. I think that could fall into that
Sure,
category,
sure. Yeah. I
right?
have a really interesting friend who was married to a woman for a few years, and they decided to get divorced because they were going separate ways in life. They were doing separate things, and they just went, Matt, this isn't working. Um, but he remained friends with her to the point that and he does this every year. He travels to Edmonton to stay with her and her new husband over Christmas, and they spend Christmas together every year. He's there for a couple weeks every year, and I'm like, wow, that's a friendship that has managed to go beyond any of the things that we might normally see in a relationship that breaks up. And I
Right.
really admire people that can maintain a friendship after having a personal relationship with someone and deciding you can't live with them anymore.
Well, and I think that comes down to what we were talking about, sort of an ideal with friendship, because it's not. I've had a friend recently leave my life, and it's I think that it's because of his religion, and which is fine, right?
Mhm.
Like he's very Christian, and he has delved into that in our relationship, um, a lot. And I know that he's always had judgments, but they're becoming more pronounced. And he left my life because part of it was because he didn't agree with what I was doing here when I was defining these words and
Mhm.
stuff. So I could never figure out. Well, like I could guess, but never understand why he was so against it. Like, I mean, it's like he's tried to explain it to me. He says, like, you're doing something that could possibly be wrong. You're not an expert, right? And so you may be leading people astray. I think personally that it was more a biblical thing. I think that it was really more around that I'm a Christian, and the reason that pastors can do sermons is because they're preaching from God's word, and God's word is 100% true, whereas the stuff that you're doing is not God's word, right? So that's the only thing that I could think of, right?
Mhm.
And I may be completely wrong on this, but he left my life, and it's I'm not upset. I knew that that was a way he was going, and I knew that that might be the parting of ways. But it doesn't mean that he's not my friend. It doesn't mean that I love him, but because I do accept that he is that, and that is where he's chosen to go. And if that's the thing that makes you happy, I remember, and in case in point, there was a girl that was bartending at a place that I was hosting karaoke. She was there for like a year and a half, and she was moving to, I think, Ontario. She ended up uh, moving. Oh no, it was Edmonton. And she was moving away, right? Everybody was coming up to her. Oh, we're so sad. We're gonna miss you, and right. And I go up to her and I said, "You going into something that you love?" Yeah. It's like, is this super exciting and super scary? And she says, "Oh yeah." And I said, "You know what? Do it. Go and have some fun." Right? I love new beginnings, right? Like, and I'm sharing that whole idea of, instead of don't go because I'm going to miss you. It's like, no, you're moving into something that is more spectacular than where you are. And why would I never support that?
Right.
Why would I tell you that you owe me anything of the fact that I'm going to miss you? It's like, well, of course. Like, I mean, I'm going to go notice that you're not here, and that, but I'll also know that you're going to have a great time
Mhm.
wherever you're
Mhm.
going.
Mhm.
Um,
And that's a sign of a
and
good
that's
good friend too, is someone who
right.
supports someone in a decision that they've made. You know, I know I've, in my past, the people that I feel closest to are the ones that go, yeah, yeah, go for it. You should really give that a try. Do something different. Step out of the
Mhm.
the the way you've been doing things, and encourage you, give you some encouragement for a decision that you've made, that you've decided, a path you've decided to, you know, walk upon. And those are good friends for sure.
Well, and that's the same thing with this person leaving my life. Is it's like he is getting into his religion, and I personally think that he's got some incredible insights that his religion really needs.
Hmm.
Um, as well, he's a very smart person. He is very informed about some things that I find a lot of Christianity doesn't really focus on. And And I think that, yeah, he should be moving towards his religion. I've been talking to him a number of years saying that, like you should be getting more involved in this because these ideas and insights are really important for people. And I find that a lot of people within your religion don't even think about this stuff. And it's a good thing for them to do. So there's never a part of me that says you shouldn't be, right? You're my friend, you should stay here. No, I'm your friend and you should move wherever you need to move. Just as I've had friendships in my life that leave my life because we just don't share anything anymore, right? We shared one thing that was really important to us for a long time, and then we don't need that anymore. We don't need that support. We don't need that, whatever it was. That doesn't mean I don't love them and that I don't care about them. Always. It's that idea that friendship is something different to me. It's wanting people to grow. It's wanting them the best for them,
Yeah.
which is not necessarily what I think it is. It's always what they think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and friends with benefits at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I never understood. I really have never had that idea. You and I talked about at one point the male urges, and I just don't have the same male urges that most people have. So I never had that pressure that most guys had. So I don't see the benefit of wanting to have friends with benefits. I've always been. I mean, part of it's just because my background. I had some sexual abuse early on in life, so I'm a little bit more leery around sex than most people, and so it's got to be trusting and a trusting area for me. And so I think that that's reflected in the fact that when I talk about friendship, it's all about trust and acceptance, to feel safe within an environment, as opposed to the people that have strings. Oh, I had a string story, a wonderful string story.
What's your string theory, Drew?
Well, my string theory. Well, I mean, okay. First off, it actually reminded me of a conversation that I had with my mother and my uncle when she moved out to Victoria. We drove over the Coquihalla in the wintertime with the plows just ahead of us. So it was pretty scary. I was driving the 5-ton and I ended up switching with my uncle because the 5-ton was just a little too scary on that for me. So I switched with my uncle and we came down, we crossed, we moved my mom into her new place. And a girlfriend of mine was with us to help us, a girl named Gail. And we were there, we were unloading some stuff, and I said to them, listen, I'm going to go take a couple of days over in Vancouver to chill out. And my uncle was just beside himself. He was pissed because the unpacking hadn't been completed and all of that stuff. And for me at the time, it was just because there was just this whole tension of shoulds, right? You should be doing this for me. You should be like, I mean, I ended up moving my mom out there because of a bunch of shoulds, right? That I was complying with. And I was really pissed off by the time we were there because I could feel the shoulds coming from her and my uncle. And, if you're family, you should, right? And so I had put this out there, and then I said, okay, well, obviously it's pissing them off. So we need to talk this out. Right. So I sat down with my mom and my uncle, and we're talking, and it ended up being about friendship. And I was trying to get through them because they're coming from the idea of blood is thicker than water, right? So family. And this comes really is important, actually a really important point for friendship. It's about becoming friends with your family, which is a tough thing to do. It really is. Even though you have shared experience, there's so many prejudices there, it's not even funny. So I'm talking with these two people, and it ends up being first, my uncle is attacking me, right? Like just verbally, telling me that I'm wrong. And this is I'm telling you the way it felt on my end. Um, so my uncle is just, "Arr, you should be, you should be, you should be. This is family, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah,"
Right.
right? And my mom, which actually surprised me, ended up defending my uncle, which was, and I'm there. I've got my whole body postures completely open. My girlfriend Gail's sitting on the floor just watching the whole thing, right? So, um, and we're just lit. It was about an hour and a half conversation, and in the because I was trying to get them because they had this idea of me, they had this idea of who I am, that was completely incorrect, and it was me trying to educate them to get them to understand what my reactions and my actions were about. Um, so we talked and we talked and we was like, trying to get through to them. And finally I got the words about an hour and a half in. I said, no, 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 you guys don't understand. Cause I was talking about my friends and I was trying to equate them, right? Said, you're my family. These are my friends. I consider my friends my family, right? They said, yeah, but your family is this. And like all of these things around family. And I just went, no, no, no. The end statement that really stopped the whole thing and got them to understand what I was talking about was I said, no, no, no. I want my friends are my family, but I want my family to be my friends.
Hmm.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Because they had felt that I was rejecting them
Right.
instead of offering them acceptance, right? Like it was completely different. I was trying to offer them a place in my life that they didn't have at the moment, right? They didn't have the friendship that I was looking for in my family, right? I wanted that fulfilled by my family, not all these other people that I had to do it with. I said, I want you to be in that category. You're not, right? And as soon as that broke, they understood and they were able to connect in that area. My uncle and I went out for a smoke afterwards, and like he was just like, oh, like exhausted because he'd been attacking the entire time. And we went out for a smoke, and I'm talking to him, and he says, I feel like such a dinosaur. And I said, why? He says, because I've been raised on this whole idea. Blood is thicker than water. You have all of these obligations to family. This is what should be happening. And he said, when you said that, I recognized immediately that it's something that we should be doing. And I feel like a dinosaur because I don't know if I can let go of this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I said, there's nothing wrong with that. But now that you understand where I'm coming from, you release a bunch of expectations around me and you allow me to be the person that I am. And you also allow me to fulfill those expectations without feeling obligated. I'm like, oh. And I said, because I can accept you for who you are. I'm cool with that. And if you say, I have these obligations, and if I say, I'm not willing to go there, you're not going to stop loving me and you're not going to condemn me all the time because you'll know who I am and you'll accept that. But most of the time, I will comply with those obligations because you accept me when I don't. And like, he's like, oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So initially, the story that I started this off with was when I was, how old was I? I think it was 8. Yes, I was 8. When I was 8, my mom gave me, I was into unicorns. Loved unicorns. Everything unicorns. And all the guys are out there, were you a little girl? No, I wasn't. I just loved unicorns. Anything fantasy was like, I was a fantasy buff. So at 8 years old, my mom gave me a brass unicorn. Pretty. It was really neat. I loved it. She'd given me a brass unicorn. And about 2 or 3 months later, I gave it to somebody else. And right. And you can already tell where I'm going around attachments and how friendships are transactional. This is the same, sort of a similar vein. My mom came down and she noticed that the unicorn was gone. She says, oh, where's your unicorn? And I said, oh, I gave it to so-and-so. Somebody that I really liked, and I wanted to show them that I liked them, and it was a token of affection. She's all offended, right? As you would know that people would be, but of course that doesn't happen in my mind. So she's like, well, like, I gave you that, and I said, wait a minute, you gave that to me, right? She said, yeah. So it's mine? She stops and she thinks, yeah. I said, so if it was yours, you could do whatever you wanted with it, right? Yeah. I said, okay, so if you're not giving it to me and it's yours, don't give it to me. I don't want it. If you're giving it to me and it's mine, then it's mine. I can do whatever I want with it. She went, yeah, I guess you're right. It's like, so yeah, I don't want anybody to give me stuff that's not mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And similarly with friendship, I don't want you to be a part of my life if my life is not mine, but ends up being yours.
Right.
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 And I don't want to be
Yeah.
that, you
Yeah.
know, it's any creative, like you're a creative guy, any creative guy. Or woman, man, whomever, anybody that's creative can't be chained in. Don't chain me
Yeah.
into this because I need room to express.
Oh
I
yeah.
need room to expand and think and go
Yeah.
beyond.
Yeah.
As soon as you box me in, what do I do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think about that. It reminds me of a thing that my son did when he was quite young. I think we had just moved here, and he had a bank card, a debit card. He had a friend who lived in the trailer park, and the kid was a good kid, and they were into skateboarding, so they spent time skateboarding, and they managed to get to a mall somewhere, and my son came home, and he told us that he bought his friend a pair of runners, like skateboard type runners. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. How did you pay for it? Well, I just used my debit card. I said, well, that's all your birthday money, everything that people have given you for your birthday. It's the same story. It's the same story.
Right.
And he says,
Yeah.
well, I just felt he needed a new pair of shoes. His shoes are very worn out and they don't have a lot of money. And I'm like, well, can't really argue with can't really argue with you, right? I mean, and it's his money, and he's doing a favor for a friend whose parents don't have a lot of money. So it actually ended up being a very endearing story, right? For his friend. He thought that he he should do this for him because he didn't have what he perceived was a very good life, didn't have a lot of money, and of course my son didn't have a lot of money either, and all of this money was given to him from family members for birthday and Christmas and stuff like that. And you want to tell your kid that you don't just because you have a card. Like I always felt that he didn't have the concept of money. He didn't really understand
Right.
money, and he's still that way a little bit. He's still kind of that way. But what was interesting about it is that you can't really fault someone for that. I'm giving of myself to a friend that I have because I feel he needs something from me,
Right.
regardless of whatever it is. It has happened to be money, right, for shoes,
Yeah.
but it's sort of a story that I had to deal with. It was all
Yeah.
my problem. It was all my issue. It
Right.
wasn't anything that he had done wrong. He really didn't do anything wrong, right?